Okay, so welcome back. So at this point, we now have Git installed on our computers. We have a GitHub account, and we've connected Git and GitHub by establishing a personal access token, so that the Git on our computer is now connected with the GitHub account that we just made. So what we're going to do in this video should be a bit more interesting in that it at least will make a little bit more sense about about why we're using Git and GitHub, and we'll get a little bit of an introduction to the workflow that we'll be using. So what we're going to do now is create our very first repository, or repo for short. And so you should log on to your GitHub site. So I'm on mine right now. Yours should look almost exactly the same unless you've changed something. And to create your first repository, you'll click this plus button in the top right hand corner. Zoom in a little bit. And click New Repository. So I'm going to click that. You'll give this repository a name, and this will be the repository that we use for this class. And so I'm going to call mine stat 4005. Data viz. So I think it just can't have anything weird in the name, and it can't have any white space. So you have to use, if you're want something to look like spaces, you have to use the underscores or dashes. You don't have to do description. We'll keep it public, though if you're using data that is private, you would definitely want to choose the private option. But for now, we'll keep it public. It's really easy to change it back and forth, so not too concerned with that at this point. We'll add a Readme file, so you could click that little checkbox there. We'll add a git ignore file, even though we won't really use it quite yet. And we'll skip the choosing a license. So after all that is set, you should be able to click this create repository. And actually mine is grayed out because I've realized that this is a git ignore template, which we actually don't want. So if you uncheck that, then this you should be able to click this create repository still with the Readme file. So let's click that. You should see this Readme file appear, which just has the title of your repository or repo. Again, you could kind of be thinking about this like an RStudio project. It's kind of like its own entity, just the GitHub Git version of that project. So what we're going to do then is we're going to take a second to go back to our RStudio. So this could be any project, it doesn't matter, because what we're going to do is go up to File and down to New Project. And so I don't really want to save that. It's fine. And what we're going to do is click this third one, which up until this point, unless you've used Git with RStudio, we haven't really done yet. So this third one says version control. Check out a project from a version control repository. So that's what we want. GitHub is version control. And I still don't really know what Subversion is, but we want Git, so clone a project from a Git repository. And it will prompt you to enter the repository URL. So what you want to do is when this repository is open, you want to copy that URL, so it should look like github.com / your username / the name of the repository. Paste that in. It'll give it the same name as your repo, and for consistency, I usually like to keep it the same as well. You'll choose where to put it. And so, again, you want to kind of do this with some, I guess, intentionality. It might depend on where you usually work from, but just so that we could see mine, I'm going to put it on my desktop here. Again, you might be working out of folders that you organize over here, or that you organize within documents, however you want to do it, but put it somewhere that you know you'll be able to navigate to. So I'm going to click open, and I'm going to click this box to open it in a new session, and I'm going to create the project. So I'm so zoomed in that things look crazy. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, because what I want to be able to see is that in this new project, you should first of all see your Readme file. So it's a file that has nothing but the title of the project, because we didn't change it. So you should be able to see that. You should also be able to see in your top right window, there's this new tab called Git. And if you click Git, it should just have a couple of files. So for now, you should just be able to click this Git tab. So something's wrong if the Git tab isn't there. That means that it didn't really set up with this Git version control. So you just want to make sure that it's there at this point. Now is a pretty good stopping point, so we'll do one last video on kind of an introduction to what we're going to use GitHub for, and talk about a little bit of the basics, though we'll also spend a good chunk of class time talking about this. So the video will just be a really brief introduction.